Hello, this is Newbies to Movies. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Justin.
And this week we have a guest, Nathan Ketner.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
So what kind of movies are you into, Nathan?
I do like a good mystery movie, and I like movies with action also.
Awesome. So that fits right into this week's theme. This week's theme is heist films. When I think of heist films, it's a really interesting way to tell an action story. Even though robberies and heists themselves don't really happen that much in the real world, it's really cool to see them interpreted different ways and different ways that films do it. What do you guys think about heist films?
I really enjoy heist films. I think it's a great way of including themes into action movies. A lot of times there's an ulterior motive than just the money or whatever they're trying to steal. I think it is a good way to put a lot of pressure on characters and kind of build up their story arcs.
I think with heist films, my thing I like most would be the intricacies within the characters, because there's always some sort of issue that's going on within either the group or within the scheme of what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really interesting because most of the time the money is usually gaining towards something better for themselves. Sometimes it's not even about money. Like the whole film is about something else. Either they're in a dark spot and they need to get out of it, or they just don't see any other way out of it, which I always think is an interesting way to look at it. So first off, the movie that this week, which is going to be my movie, Usual Suspects, came out in, I believe, 1994, maybe a little bit.
That sounds right.
Yeah, 1994, 1995 Oscars. It's basically a film about these guys all show up at like a police lineup. And then from there, they become, I wouldn't call it friends, but more acquaintances that then work together to pull off like a heist-ish like thing. I wouldn't call it like a normal heist where they just go to a bank and rob it. It's definitely more elevated, and then has a huge twist at the end that we will get into. So I'm first going to start off with the plot of it, which I personally gave a 9 out of 10. I think the plot itself was very strong. This won Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars that year for a reason. For the time, it's really set up a different way of how heist films have been looked at. Before that, you had very prototypical heist films where they were just robbing banks and all this. And this had a different way of looking at it, of ulterior motive of a greater person.
I agree. I think I can see why it won the award at the Oscars, just for the way that it went about telling the story. It was kind of centered through one person's eyes and the retelling of what happened rather than just following a group, trying to run the heist.
Yeah, the storytelling of it is very different and very unique for the type of movie it is.
Yeah. Now that I look back at like newer movies now, sometimes movies do look through like a story through one person's view. Reading up on it, this was like one of the first movies to actually do this and actually be popular while doing it. So I think really paved the way for storytelling through one lens. Instead of a third person like view, it's like a one person view, and then how even their own storytelling, you can't trust it all.
It was interesting how one of the main themes of the movie is how manipulation of a story can really send off a bunch of different areas, a bunch of different characters into rabbit holes that they didn't even need to go down.
I think one big point was during the interrogation scenes and all that, they view Verbal as not as a very real threat, because he's limping. He seems very emotional in the way he's talking. And it's funny because of their bias towards it, they just totally forget that oh, this guy was a part of the original lineup. He could be a real threat. And then that's his whole play. He just plays it down as a lower person. And when it turns out that he is Kieser Soze, the big crime lord. So I think that was a really interesting twist at the end. You kind of see it coming throughout it because you're like, why is it only looking at this guy's view and why is everyone sleeping on him? But it's still interesting.
I think it was interesting too that they made him a cripple, like he always called himself, to kind of disguise himself. Oftentimes nowadays, I think we kind of see that when we are expecting a twist. We see that, oh, this guy's kind of in the corner. He's different from everybody else. Whether it's appearance, physical, or, mental, he's a little off. I think that's an interesting way to kind of hint on to the viewers, what might be coming.
Yeah. I think I don't know if you guys have seen Scary Movie 2 or 1, but I'm pretty sure they make fun of this part of it as well into it, where like
Yes.
the lead detective is like playing like a disabled person. And then at the end, he
Yeah.
just starts walking straight because he did it all.
It's like
So
one for
it's
one at
still,
the end of the movie.
yep. It's almost exactly like it. I was like, oh, that's where they got it from. So that was cool. Okay. Now getting into characters, I got a 6 out of 10. I think Kevin Spacey's character is like the like best one in it by far. And then like that idea of Keisha Soze of like a big crime lord that's controls everything behind the shadows. I think all the other ones were very one-sided. I think they could have delved deeper into them. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Nate.
So, well, at first for the characters, it was a little difficult trying to keep up with who was who because it was all 5 of them at once, and it was hard keeping up. But I think each character had its own style. Like there was within a heist, I think there's the lead guy, there's the guy that does either the explosives or the weaponry. Each guy has its own separate task and what they're good at. I think that's what they did a good job of portraying. And the same thing with who is it? Not McManus. It was Verbal. I think, as you said, they did a good job with Verbal having to play that two-sided character.
Yeah, I agree. And to, kind of piggyback off what he was saying is like, each character had like their own theme revolved around them. Like you had the hothead, you had the gunner, you had the one who didn't want to be there but felt he had to be there. Then you had Benicio del Toro, right? That's his name. Yeah, you just couldn't understand him and nobody could, but that was just like his whole character point.
Yeah. I think my biggest hit on it of why like I didn't rank it higher was because I've seen heist films that have done that thing, but they've gone more into each character. And I think this was like setting up like for other movies, like, oh, like each character has a different theme, but I think they could have gone a little bit more in depth with like a little bit more of their backstory because they went to backstories of Keaton and Verbals. But the rest of them, it was just kind of like, oh, they're just there.
Surface level.
And then getting into cinematography, I gave it a 4 out of 10. A little bit less than like middle of the ground for me. Mainly, obviously, it came out in 95. But I've seen some other movies during that time where it's a lot clearer footage of what you're watching, specifically Tarantino films I'm thinking about, of what you're watching just looks a lot better quality. For me, a lot of like the scenes were taken away from like me not being able to actually tell what's going on, if that makes sense.
It almost felt like it was filmed in the 80s or something. Like it felt like an older, grainier style of camera.
Yeah, which you would think maybe that was on purpose, but looking up, it was not on purpose. Like it was not set specifically in a time frame or anything.
So with cinematography, I took that as also the way the camera was being portrayed through the director's eyes and showing what he wants to show to the audience. And so I thought there were a lot of key or hints in left-handed, left side, that kind of thing, showing that how Verbal couldn't do anything with his left. But you had instances where one of the scene opened up with on the cup of coffee. And as it pans up to face the investigator and Verbal, it was in his left hand and for the cup of coffee. So, I mean, there were subtle things like that I picked up on throughout the movie.
I didn't even catch that. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't catch that at all. Yeah, that's an interesting way to view cinematography. I view that more under like editing / directing wise than actual cinematography. And now that affected my scores a little bit later on into those categories specifically. But that's something interesting to catch on, especially because like the whole end scene of like when the detective finally puts it together shows a lot of things that we've already seen throughout the movie, but it's just been hiding in like plain sight. And then their dialogue, I gave it an 8 out of 10. I think the dialogue was really great in this movie. Also some like pretty memorable lines, and they're very natural dialogue, which for its time felt very, taken a little bit from like Tarantino lines, like a little bit felt a little bit like, wait, did Tarantino have anything to do with this film? But nope. Definitely took a little bit of like that esque. One specific quote I want to bring up is the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he didn't exist. That's a great line.
I marked that as my favorite quote as well. And I think the timing with Kevin Spacey and when it was delivered is when the investigator was like figuring everything out. I think that was like perfectly placed.
Yeah, you can't really beat that That's a generational quote right there, very infamous.
And then getting into acting, I gave it a 7 out of 10 with real specific highlights to Kevin Spacey. He won an Oscar for it for a reason, because he really portrays like this weak character. And then you could see in the moment that he switches like in his face, like the acting with his face is like a big thing for me. And then the flashback scenes of him being Keyser Soze and seeing that specific like characterization of it draw out. What do y'all think?
For the acting, I do agree with you with Keyser Soze, but what was it? One thing that kind of stood out to me was doing a little bit more research with this film, seeing the opening scene where they're all lined up on against the I guess to be figuring out who they are. That whole scene is improvised.
Yeah,
and that it was all just right off the cuff. And what was it when you heard the guy over the intercom saying in English, please? That was the director saying that to Del Toro, I believe is who it is.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff, it's pretty neat seeing that get left in the film.
Yeah.
I also read about that scene that the director was getting pissed because they kept laughing, and then finally he just left it in, and it worked really well together because like all the like just like the title of the film itself, The Usual Suspects, like these buttheads just like messing around, like they're used to this at this point. They always get called in. They're just kind of like making a big joke out of everything.
So Del Toro specifically, every movie I've ever seen him in, he like kills his character. Like he's just like such a character type actor that I think he does well in every movie I've ever seen him in. And this movie just shows like this is like the beginning of his career. This movie, it's like his big breakout movie. So he's also a big one to call out. And then Stephen Baldwin, who plays McManus, he's also an interesting one because his brother is like obviously Alec Baldwin, way bigger actor, way bigger name. But I thought he was a pretty interesting like hothead. I think Gabriel Byrne, who plays Keaton, who's like the guy that shouldn't be there but knows he has to be kind of thing. I've never seen him in anything else. I don't know if he's like if this was like the end of his career or something. I thought he was all right though. Like there's nothing crazy about his character that I thought.
Yeah, I enjoyed Baldwin too. I think he went pretty crazy in some scenes, and specifically harping back to the scene we just talked about. He kind of started the chain reaction of them all like just giggling, having fun with him screaming it.
Yeah. Now getting into sound effects, I gave it an 8 out of 10 with just the specific effects to like where the music was placed, but then also like the boat scene of how real it sounded. Like maybe it was just my TV and I had it cranked up, but it actually felt like it was happening like right outside, which I thought was.
I think the sound effects were pretty good. At some points, like we were talking about with the cinematography, like it felt like the camera work wasn't there, but the audio was great. It just didn't seem to match up for me for whatever reason.
Sound effects, I think, went well. I don't think there's really anything too crazy, anything too over the top, or anything underwhelming. So I think they hit it well with it.
Yeah, I definitely think sound effects was a little bit better than the cinematography, the same way as Justin said. It just felt a little bit off that something that could sound that great also didn't look as well for like 95. And then for set design, I gave it a 6 out of 10. I thought it was nothing special. I mean, it's just set in the 90s. They look like they were in the 90s because it was placed in the 90s. There's nothing crazy about the set design that I was like, yeah, you know what? That's really cool.
Yeah, with I would say really the only thing that stood out to me was the ship and how well they were able to get that. Everything else kind of just seemed out on the streets of either New York or out in LA or just in an office. So set design wasn't too crazy for me.
There's the boat scene did feel kind of like a maze, like every corner that they turned, it did feel like, I don't know what's coming around this, whether it's, the big bad, whether it's just a little, grunt that's working for him or what's going to happen next. And at that point in the movie, you don't even know what they're looking for. Are they looking for drugs or they're looking for money? They don't know why they're there. So you don't know what's coming around the next corner with them.
Now, I will say the boat scene is why I think I rated it a little bit above 5. It's just how interesting that portrayed, but everything else seemed just like normal for me.
Yeah.
And then for directing, I gave it a 7 out of 10. I think that's, again, a big style decision of like showing things in plain sight that you wouldn't be able to know unless you rewatched it. So like if I rewatched this film, I could probably be able to notice a lot of things that he was just putting out there for at the end of the movie for it all to make sense of why he is Keith Soze.
No, yeah, and definitely for its time, like we talked about, it was a very interesting way to go about telling a story. Kind of pioneered the groundwork for this storytelling style.
Mm-hmm.
Piggyback up off of the showing of the left-handed scenes and everything. I caught it the first time barely. I had to go back and rewatch it. But at like the 42-minute mark where Verbal is being interrogated, what's his name? Kujin? He gets close to Verbal, kind of close to his left side. It almost looks like he lunges toward him. And Verbal reacts with his left hand going up, but it's like a really quick split-second thing. So I thought that was pretty interesting seeing that being within the film, but nobody picking up on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the director, Bryan Singer, he is canceled now, by the way. In 2019, came out with like a lot of allegations and all that. But just to say some movies that he's done before or after this more so. He's did X-Men, X-Men 2, Superman Returns, X-Men First Class, and then X-Men Days of Future Past, and then X-Men Apocalypse. And then Bohemian Rhapsody as well. So he really like projected a career after this, and then looking back at like X-Men movies, because he pretty much did almost all of them except for X-Men 3. I could kind of see hints of like Usual Suspects directing styles within those movies.
Yeah. I think maybe as a camera problem too, because those first few X-Men looked really old too for no reason.
Yeah,
I don't know
they
if it's
definitely
just me. Yeah.
Yeah, almost all of them did. And then Bohemian Rhapsody just seems like a random movie out of this.
Yeah, he must have been a Queen fan.
Yeah. Okay, and then getting into editing, I gave it a 7 out of 10. Same idea with deciding to edit certain parts, still cutting back from like past scenes to the forward, to back to the past, kind of like Memento, but a lot more clear cut and easier to interpret it, in my opinion, than what Memento was.
It reminded me a lot of Memento, just because we just recently watched that, but the way it was edited, kind of stringing scenes together from the present and the past, was a very interesting way to tell the story.
Yeah, I thought the editing on this was pretty good. Biggest thing that stood out for me was the back and forth between everyone trying to go through the ship, and you just see Verbal just kind of sitting in the same spot. Kind of raises a little bit of a red flag, like, so he's just going to sit here this whole time while everyone else is just going and trying to figure out what's going on. There's got to be something else going on to him.
Yeah. As like people watching outside of the scene person, you could be like, oh yeah, how do they not notice that? But it's because of the character that he's been playing the entire movie, of like this scared guy who doesn't really know what he's doing, and they're like, why is he here? Like, he doesn't seem like a usual guy that would be a killer, and then it turns out like, oh, it's just because he's playing somebody.
Chestnut checkers.
Yeah, exactly. And then lastly, theme. I gave it a 5 out of 10, mainly because I think the theme itself of somebody controlling from the dark, from behind the scenes and all that, and then them just like pulling a mission or like pulling a heist without actually knowing what their end goal is. I've seen that be done a bunch. I think Godfather is like a very what kind of character they were trying to portray with Cesar Coze. I think that's who like the idea of like that came from. I don't know if you guys can see that, but
yeah, I can see that. Just kind of like the overarching presence of a guy that nobody knows, nobody can answer to. There's definitely Kaiser Soze, whatever.
I took it more as the famous line with greatest trick Dev ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. I think kind of starting that off at the beginning of the interview and showing that all the way through the whole movie, kind of keeping that same premise, and then ending with who the devil actually is. I think it actually did fairly decent with my interpretation of what the theme is.
Okay. Yeah. No, I definitely see that, because it's like kind of like, oh, the devil was like with you the whole time and you just didn't even know it. And they just kept talking about him like the whole movie. The one character, Kobayashi, who they're like, oh, where is he? All that kind of stuff. And then even though he knew he was right there, which I don't know if he actually did know that was him or not. The way that they see him in the car, the way he looks at him, I'm like, is this the first time he's seeing him, or did he just know the whole time? What do you guys think?
I think it was the first time. He had too much self-interest to not hold him accountable for anything if he knew that was actually him. And in the earlier
Mhm.
scene when Kobayashi was kind of telling the whole group, hey, this is why he's after you. This is why he's after you. This is why he's after you. He ran over him just like everybody else. Like there was no, um, oh, I'll kind of defend him because that's my boss kind of thing.
I'd say I'd have to disagree. I think he did know who he was because Kobayashi said that he's known him or he's worked for him for how many years or and how long for time. I think that Soze has to have like a right hand man to have his back every move because there's no way one person can pull off every single thing to his own power.
Yeah, yeah, I could see it go either way. Honestly, I think that was not his first time, but I remember a lot of the scenes where they would interact with all like the group, and he was behind a lot. He was like not a forefront guy talking to him. I think that was
Yeah.
on purpose, so they did give
Mm-hmm.
off like a sign of like, well, they actually know each other.
Yeah. I agree, but I
Also,
also think like he could have been working for him this whole time and just not known who he is. Like we've seen that in 1,000 other movies too. Like just the idea of the top guy hiding away, making sure that, his cover's never blown, pretty big.
mhm. Yeah, I think one last shout out was Giancarlo Esposito, just like was in the movie. He wasn't
Yeah.
anything big, but I was like, oh, I didn't know he was in this, and now he's in like everything.
Everywhere.
So the overall ranking that I gave it was 6.6 out of 10. I think it was slightly above average for me, or like a little bit like, I think it was good, but not great for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think the movies last week were a little bit better. But overall, I think The Usual Suspects is a really good heist film. I think set up for some other films to really portray and take some stuff off of it.
I gave it a 7.6. I really liked how just the manipulation and power of storytelling was like the general theme of the whole movie. And I know it came up really fast at the end, but I really liked how the story was told overall.
I gave it a 7 out of 10. I thought the 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 mystery of who is Kaiser Soze. I think they did a very good job of keeping that a mystery for throughout the whole movie until the very last portion of the movie, to where the audience finally gets to understand who it is and then piece it together with the detective. So I thought it was done very well.
Yeah, I think it was in a way of like instead of like a heist film where, yes, they were like going on this ship to do something. I think the real, like what they were trying to get was, who is this? And then by the time they would have figured it out, they're dead. So I think that was like a really impacting last scene where, or like final like act of just seeing them all dead, and then Verbal's like losing his mind, and then him just being able to walk out. I think that's a very memorable scene from this movie. Okay, and then now we're gonna get into Hell or High Water, which was Justin's movie. Justin, if you want to take the reign.
I got the pleasure of watching this movie this week. I thought it was a very interesting take on a heist film. It wasn't this grand adventure that most heist films usually are. It was kind of a small town following two bank robbers who are brothers. The whole time the movie's going on, it's developing the themes of the brothers, kind of talking about the reason that they're doing this. You're kind of figuring that out while it's also following the two cops who are trying to go after them. And you're trying to understand why the cops are still doing this kind of thing. It reminded me of No Country for Old Men in that sense. You're following each individual character. I know it was kind of in pairs in this film, but it's just they're developing themes, they're developing storylines, and trying to understand what's going on around them. So for plot, I gave it a 8. I really liked the telling of Toby's character the most, I think, played by Chris Pine. I thought it was very interesting to see a heist film to display somebody as being almost completely selfless. He wanted none of the money for himself. It was for his family. So he could buy the farm, stop it from foreclosing at the bank, and then sell off the rights to the oil that's underneath the farm. I thought that was a very interesting character arc, and it displayed well with Jeff Bridges' character, who was automatically assuming that these bank robbers were just in it for the money. They just wanted to steal from these banks and take it for themselves and run, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the plot was very well done. talking about No Country for Old Men, you could definitely see how a little bit is taken off, but I also think that's just part of it being also a Western style movie,
Yeah.
or specifically neo-Western, which I think has a very straightforward way of plot telling, but it's like the characters themselves within it that is not very straightforward or a
Mhm.
normal set of characters.
Yeah. What'd you think, Nathan?
With this being a Taylor Sheridan movie, or this is where he starts to break out with this movie. I think you see his style of very simple plots, but having very complicated dialogue within the movie. Or not complicated, but very intense, very emotional dialogue that really puts this movie in a very interesting way.
No, I
Yeah,
agree. I think, go ahead.
So talking about Taylor Sheridan, so this is like a set of 3 films that he calls like the American Frontier trilogy of Sicario, Wind River, and then this movie in that order, before he starts doing Yellowstone and then some other stuff, which I think is really interesting because I've seen the other 2 and they're all very similar of like very simple plots with some great like character details that are very deep. Um, and really he just wrote for like some crazy directors throughout this, but I think him as a storyteller is really interesting, especially if you've seen Yellowstone at all. Same idea. Yellowstone's a very simple idea, just with characters really drawn out and deep.
Yeah, and to get into characters, I gave that a 7. Chris Pine and Jeff Bridges really stole the show here for me. It was kind of just the duality of the partner in crime bank robbers and the partner in crime rangers. I thought that was really interesting. They both had kind of their own preconceived notions of the other. You know, Chris Pine and his brother, they just kind of thought like, oh, these cops are idiots. They'll never, get onto us. We'll just run into these banks, grab the small bills, get out. Nobody's going to care. And then the Rangers, they were kind of like, oh no, these guys are terrible people. They're out stealing from these banks. They want to hurt people. They want to take all this money for themselves. I thought the characters were really well done.
Right, you, Nathan?
Yeah, I thought Chris Pine's character, I think, is the one that the audience can really relate to, with being just the wholesome, everything is wanting to do it for the better. I think Ben Foster, he he's the other brother. So I'm curious more about his backstory with what he did in the war and how he was portrayed within the war, or what his actual standing was, because I think there's more storytelling to him and his character on why he's actually doing this, not so much just doing it for the glory and doing it for the fun.
I think he really, what I got out of his character was that he's like the hothead, obviously, but he also is like the kind of guy where after the war, maybe he got obsessed with the idea of like thrill, killing, and just being constantly around like a sense of like danger. And like you can see that with his criminal record that's really brought up at the end. It's like, oh, once he got back, he was constantly in and out of jail, doing all these constant things. That reads off of a guy that always wants some kind of danger, that he's not comfortable with just having a normal life.
Well, I thought that's what was. Go ahead.
No, you got it.
I think we're on the same track. Well, that's what I was thinking was so interesting, because that's what was throwing the cops the whole time. The fact that, of course, this guy would be the one to do it, but who was he with? His pristine brother that's never done any bad in this world? No, it's not him.
Yeah.
And he was the perfect scapegoat per se. And that's why he kind of sacrificed himself, because, of course, it would be him of all people.
Yeah, I think Toby really I don't think he purposely set it up that way, but I think the scene where they finally split ways at the end of, I think he's like, oh, like, I think this was what was supposed to happen the whole time, was he's like, I'm not going back to jail. Like he didn't say it, but like, he's pretty much thinking in his head, I'm not going back to jail. I'm either dying or somehow going out like a blaze of glory. Like I ain't settling a normal way.
Yeah, I agree.
King of the Plains, right?
Yeah.
Yep, King of the Plains. That's me, and then dies.
And then for cinematography, I gave it a 7. I thought the camera work was really well done in this. It did a great job of encapsulating the Western living. It felt very open and unknown, especially in that final standoff scene. Even Jeff Bridges' character was kind of recruiting local help to find his way around, even though he's probably been around that area for a long time. It just kind of felt like an unknown everywhere you went.
Just to piggyback off Justin, I think the same thing with showing the Western Texas seeing how that is, and then having subtle hints within that small town of how bad everyone's going through right now, with it being post Iraq war, that 2008 market crash type deal, and how everyone's trying to scrape just to get by, figuring out how to get through the week, that kind of thing. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think what it really did well, just like No Country for Old Men, of giving off that Western scene, is it felt very fictional, but at the same time, person that I only lived in Texas for like 10 months, but I could tell you those kind of towns do exist, and it felt very real, like such a small story that had a lot just deeper meaning.
Yeah, I agree. And then for dialogue, kind of going into that too, it was definitely very authentic, I feel like, to that Western Texas style sound. And I think it was even really captivating and interesting, even in slow settings. I think back to the diner scene when he's talking to the waitress. I was very intrigued in that. And I think that the dialogue itself brought me into it, even when that's kind of like a, kind of small one-off scene when not a lot of action's going on.
Yeah, I really like the dialogue in this movie. There's so many quotable lines that I took from it. Like, I've been poor my whole life, like a disease passing from generation to generation, but not my boys, not anymore. Which I like right there tells you like the whole reason why he did it. Like the whole motive was for my boys, not for me. He's like, I could die like right now that I've completed my mission and I don't care. And then like, what was it?
Enjoyed
You got it, Nathan. I'm trying to find something.
Enjoyed the dialogue between Gil Birmingham and who's the sheriff play? Jeff Bridges. Their dialogue back and forth kind of I enjoyed a lot, because it was that bickering, kind of picky and poking fun at each other, but then also having that respect for each other, and one having to retire shortly and having the other one kind of take his place. So I enjoyed that kind of back and forth, and I think it made it hit even harder for when Gil gets shot.
Yeah, I agree. I think a big part of that too is, the kind of stereotypical old timer. He's just here for a good time. And then you have the newbie coming in, and he's like really hard set on everything that he does. He wants to take it very seriously. And Jeff Bridges is trying to open him up the whole time. And, before his death, I think he did start opening up a little bit more to him.
No, they definitely did. Specifically like in the chase scene where they're driving together, Hamilton, Jeff Bridges' character says, this is what they call white man's intuition. And they says, sometimes a blind pig finds a truffle. And that could just kind of show that he's opening up more to him. Just for him. Sadly, he dies like less than 10 minutes later. Maybe he got a little too comfortable.
Yeah, I think so. And then with set design, kind of going on the same thing I talked about earlier, I think it was just a really accurate display of Western Texas. I did read that they filmed a lot in New Mexico, is kind of used as a double for West Texas, but I think everything looked great all around.
Yeah, I've been to New Mexico and West Texas, and it looked pretty much like places I've driven through like a bunch of times, almost exactly like it. Like I wouldn't be surprised if something I drove through was exactly in that movie.
I thought they did it well for what the plot of the story, with wanting it to be in a very small town out in the middle of nowhere. To see something like this go on with having the bank robberies in a small town.
And then with acting, I gave it an 8. I said, Chris Pine and Jeff Bridges, I think, really lit it up, especially in that final scene together. I think both of them started coming closer to understanding why the other one did what they did. And I thought they were, perfect in this and both of each other's roles.
Yeah, I think this is Chris Pine's best movie by far. Like him acting in, him being like taken as a serious actor. From this point on, he starts doing more serious films, from like getting away from the Star Trek, getting kind of typecasted from Star Trek, and then being like a rom-com guy. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anything was too over the top. I don't think that anything underhit. I think what did very well was all of the long dialogue, emotional scenes. I think those all hit very well between all the actors.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Definitely deserved that. I think Chris Pine should have at least gotten a look, maybe a Golden Globe nomination. because I thought he was also great.
And then for directing, I gave it a 8 as well. Directed by David Mackenzie. I thought it was well paced, well designed, overall great storytelling. What do you guys think about that?
I thought it was a pretty well directed movie that was just carried by the screenplay. Looking at David Mackenzie's past, this is by far his best movie. Nothing else has really come even close to this. And then the screenplay, it was nominated for best screenplay. Yeah, I think really Taylor Sheridan kind of carries it throughout this film, which is funny because David Mackenzie also does great at like portraying this Western Texas film when he grew up in England and he's an English guy. So thought that's interesting.
Sometimes that happens when you have a good team around you too,
What do you think,
Yeah, I thought
Nathan?
Mackenzie did a good job. I saw a clip of him kind of describing the way he wanted the movie to go and his vision, everything, and just putting the West Texas kind of to the side. He said there was bits of like wealth and poverty, the race, there are other different types of themes that it hit, not just with a being a heist Western type movie, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think to go into that with the themes, I gave it a 9. I really enjoyed the themes of this movie, the poverty and the cynical nature of it, as well as the struggle to break generational cycles, especially in areas where there's not as much opportunity as maybe in like a big city kind of thing. It feels like that quote that you said earlier, Tyler, it feels like it's passed on like the plague. And then also the overall critique of institutions in smaller towns like that. They're going to hate on the bigger institutions in the big cities because it seems from the outside looking in that they have it all. But in reality, I don't know that that's the truth.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Yeah, I overall thought the theme was great. It's probably one of my favorite themes of any of the movies we've watched, just because it felt so real.
Yeah, I think theme was very well. I mean, to piggyback off of what you guys said, I think all the scenes hit well. I think everything was portrayed to how it would be within that time frame. I think Mackenzie did a very good job with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think
looking at
go ahead.
Sorry, looking at the Oscars for this year, because I was just surprised it didn't win anything. It was kind of a stacked year. This was like the La La Land year, Moonlight year, Hacksaw Ridge, Arrival, Manchester by the Sea. Yeah, it's just a stacked year. So I think screenplay, I'm surprised Manchester by the Sea won over it, to be quite honest. I've seen both. I think Taylor Sheridan deserves an Oscar. Hopefully he does one day. But yeah.
And then for soundtrack, I gave it a 7. I think it perfectly used the soundtrack to encompass the surroundings in West Texas and kind of build tension effectively. Nothing too special, but it did its job.
Yeah, I actually really like the soundtrack a lot. I actually low-key listened to it in my car after watching it. I thought it was dope. Because I live in the desert, so I'm just like driving in the desert, and I'm just like, this feels right.
Yeah, it definitely captured that Western twangy with the slow fiddles, low bass, very little use of percussion instruments. I think it did a very good job of setting the tone for the movie.
And then for editing, I gave it a 7. I think it used effective editing just to build suspense and tension, especially in the final standoff. I thought the editing particularly stood out there. Cutting from Jeff Bridges' character, who was kind of climbing up to get behind the shooter. It did a good job of not giving away his position to the viewer and kind of build that tension of who's going to find each other first kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was also nominated for best editing, which makes a lot of sense because the way it was edited, I think, was very well done. Really just carry like what the story of it all was, and not adding too many extra scenes that did it. Like there's not a single scene that I could think of that seems like it did it along.
I would say my favorite part of the movie was the opening scene, to where it was just one long take. I think with heist movies or robbery movies, I think if you get more of those long single takes to kind of put you in that perspective of it actually happening right in front of you, I've really enjoyed those. I think that did very well with this movie.
Yeah, I think with the editing as well, it showed that they aren't professionals. Like they are just really rookies at this. That they're just they really don't know what they're doing. But I think
To add on
really
to
did that
what
well.
Nathan said about that first scene, it really puts the viewer in that chaotic sense as well, making it all one shot. If you start adding a bunch of cuts in it, it kind of feels like relaxed, like everything's fine, but it's not. So when you have that long going scene, it really gives the viewer like that sense of being there and being like what's going to happen, what's going on, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree.
So overall, I gave it a 7.6 out of 10 or a 76. Same as The Usual Suspects. I think both are pretty great movies. I enjoyed both pretty much the same.
Yeah, I gave it a 8.2 out of 10. I think it's my highest ranking so far. Maybe up there with No Country for Old Men, but I really like the film. I'm also like neo-Western is probably my favorite genre. Like I just love Western type of movies where just different, like that slow drawl of like a plot. Also, Taylor Sheridan's probably my favorite like writer out there right now. So
Well, I gave it a 6.3 out of 10.
Whoa.
I think, yes. Just, I couldn't help but compare Unusual Suspects and Hell or High Water. And obviously, I draw more toward Unusual Suspects or Usual Suspects because of the mystery and trying to figure out what's going on top of the heist. This one, it was kind of just small heist after small heist after small heist with a bunch of emotional things going on into it. And a little bit slow on the slow end for me, even though I enjoyed the set design. I love where it's set, the location of everything. It's just those types of movies for me, it's a little hard to stay into or stay with when it's such a slow build to the end.
I could definitely see that opinion. Yeah, it's just those kind of slow ones I really like personally, but I could see why people don't rank it as high. Because I saw The Usual Suspects, that's the reason why I ranked it a little lower is because like the same thing you're saying, but the opposite. Like, I don't know, when it jumps around too much, sometimes like if I look down or if I'm doing something else for like 5 minutes, I'm like, all right, what the heck just happened? Awesome. So now we are going to get into a draft. So the draft this week is going to be all based around heist films. And really the criteria that we're going off of is it involves a robbery or heist of something. It doesn't need to be just money. But the whole idea of the film and or like a big scene of it, it doesn't need to be the entire film. A big scene part of it is trying to take something from something that isn't theirs, pretty much. If there's some movies that are up for debate, we'll discuss it live of whether or not we count it and whether or not we want to veto it. And it's going to be a draft into 6 categories. The 6 categories, first one being box office. So it needs to be over 300 million. The other category is it doesn't involve money. So there's nothing part of it that involves money. Again, could be up to debate. We have to discuss throughout. And then 19th or 20th century, 21st century, and then comedy being the 5th category. And then the last one being wild card. That could be anything, any of the categories. So I'm looking forward to this draft.
I am too.
Just to see just different opinions about different movies. I think there's a lot of heist movies, a lot of movies that could count as a heist movie that not many people probably think of when they think of it. Just putting it in my spreadsheet real quick, but I got a random name generator up right now. So whoever gets first gets the first pick, and it's our guest, Nathan.
Well,
okay, so Nathan's got the first pick. Wait, give me a second. I got to pick who's the second. And then with the second pick, it's going to be, man, why is it so close? Justin.
Okay, sweet.
Okay, so Justin's second, and then
Are we snake drafting this?
Yep, snake drafting.
Okay, sweet.
Okay. All
Nathan is on the clock.
With the first overall pick for box office, I chose Ant-Man Quantumania.
Wait, Quantumania, the first one?
Quantumania.
Okay.
That's a hot take. First overalls. That's crazy. All right. Explain why.
Yeah, that movie sucks.
Well, if I'm being brutally honest, I've struggled trying to find with different websites on box office over 300 million. So that was kind of the first one that I found.
Okay.
And I've seen it. So
okay. But,
yeah.
But do you think the first Ant-Man is better than this one, or do you think Quantumania is better?
No, I think the first Ant-Man's better. I think Quantumania is not that good.
I think the first Ant-Man was over 300.
Yeah, 100%.
Was the first Ant-Man over 300?
Yes, it's on my list.
It's not too late to change your choice because, like,
yeah,
I don't know if I want to see this movie on my graphic.
Take Ant-Man, dude. Just take the first one. It was good.
And it's definitely a heist film too.
Yeah. I think it's more of a heist film.
What do you have for gross for the first Ant-Man?
Let's look it up.
Yeah, look up that one. I had it on my list as over. I didn't put the number down.
If it's not, I'd be absolutely shocked because almost everything. Oh yeah, it's 520 million.
Yeah, take the first one. We'll give it to you.
Yeah, I'll take the first one. Screw Quantumania.
Yeah.
We're going first Ant-Man.
Okay, good.
No more freebies though.
Yeah, yeah. So you want to talk about the film a little bit?
Yeah. I think Paul Rudd does a good job of portraying Ant-Man as kind of the goofy character, and then trying to also rebuild his family back, trying to go away from the crime.
Yeah. Out of all the Marvel movies, I think this is like one of the smaller stories of any Marvel movies. It's like probably a top 15 for me, just because of how well it's done and the comedy of it. I think Pena in it is like one of the standouts too. He's really funny in it.
He is pretty great in it. And I think I really enjoy this movie because I think Marvel needs to go back to like a smaller scale, more contained storyline. And I think that's a lot of people's knocks on their movies right now. And I think this is definitely one they should look back to and say, okay, that's the model. That's one of the prime ones where this is a good, small, contained story, not trying to do anything too big, but tell the story of a superhero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, getting back to the story of like what a superhero actually means instead of this intergalactic fights and stuff.
Yeah. So with my first pick, I'm also going to go box office over 300 million, and I'm going to go Inception. Yeah, I think this is a really good one. And on our ranking of Christopher Nolan movies last week, a lot of people were upset that we put Interstellar above this, but I really enjoyed this movie. I think it's such an interesting way to tell a story, going into other people's dreams and kind of playing in that universe. It can become quite a mess, but I think Christopher Nolan pulled it off perfectly.
Yeah, I'm on record of loving this movie. So Inception, I think, is one of his top ones. And then it's just like such an interesting like heist film too, because it's not, again, stealing money. It's actually going and putting something into it, but still going somewhere where you're not supposed to go. This 100% counts as a heist film. Okay, so with my first pick, I think I'm just going to get it out of the way because this is my favorite movie in the 20th century, Heat, which I know neither of you have seen.
Yeah,
which
I haven't
is
seen it.
Kind of a crime in itself, considering almost every single heist film takes off of this movie. And they literally, every person that ever makes a robbery movie says, yeah, I drew inspiration from this. Even Endgame, even Avengers Endgame said, yeah, I took a little bit out of Heat to make this movie. Like a almost $2 billion movie. It took a film off of like the 20th century. It has Al Pacino, Robert De Niro has like the two main guys, and then Val Kilmer is another one. This is like right after Top Gun, so he's still like big and before Batman. It's basically a movie of these robbers. These guys are pros though, compared to some of the movies that we watched this week. These guys are pros, and then a detective trying to go after and find them. It's really like drawn out dialogue, just one of the greats. If you look up all top lists of heist films, this is probably going to be up there. The sound effects is also insane in this movie. Like it actually, if the shooting scene, once you see it, the shooting scene comes out, crank your TV up because you're like, oh my God, how did they do this? Okay. And then with my second pick, I'm going to go with doesn't involve money, and I'm going to go with Rogue One.
Dang, that was a good one. I had that.
Figured that.
Yep. Rogue One's awesome. It's probably my favorite like new Star Wars or Disney Star Wars film from George after they took the realms off of him. Very simple story, but also like such a great like setup to what leads into New Hope. Everyone, I remember when it first came out or like before it came out, everyone's like, why are they doing this? This doesn't sound like a good idea. This makes no sense. We don't know any of these characters. And then it came out and then everyone's like, all right, that was gas. And then they created like Andor pretty much based off of how popular Rogue One was.
No, I agree.
I a lot.
Yeah, this is arguably my favorite Star Wars movie of all time. And that might be a hot take to some people, but I think it totally encompassed the kind of, it took out all the grand parts of Star Wars, right? The lightsabers, the Force, all of that stuff. And it totally encompassed the ground level battles that were going on between the rebellion and the Empire. I thought it was perfectly done. And the heist itself is still so grand and has so much to do with the greater story of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue Star Wars needs to go back to how they made Rogue One and start making more movies like that. I think they would boost in their popularity more because of how popular and how well done Rogue One was made.
Yeah. Hopefully the Starfighter movie with Ryan Gosling, hopefully they pull something like that, but I don't know. I haven't heard great things from behind the scenes for that movie. So
you're gonna need so much luck to get that through. Oh my God. I'm so sick of this. All right, I'm moving on. If we're talking about Starfighter, it's a bad day. I'm gonna go. Let me see here. I'll go 21st Century. I'll do Avengers Endgame.
I was wondering if you're gonna pull that out. Yeah.
Had to. I think this movie was pretty awesome. I don't think it lived up to Infinity War. I think people compare Infinity War to like Empire Strikes Back, the villain wins. So when you get to Endgame, it's kind of like, okay, well, we know the heroes have to win. I think that was kind of a tough plot point for everybody, but it's just because of how good Infinity War was. But I think it was really well done. I think the time heist was really well done. I think people were also worried about screen time for the characters that they love, but I think it did a good job of totaling up all the characters and giving them enough screen time, at least the ones that didn't die in the previous film. So
yeah, I think it was a great ending trilogy, like into the film for like that part of Marvel. Nothing has really reached just to the level of like what that movie meant. And DC's still trying to climb up to like what that movie meant. I think that no matter what, that's a really hard task for what Endgame was trying to do. But I think they did pretty well, like the Russo brothers. It's really hard to do much better than what they did with the movie.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you build up a movie franchise for 22 years, and you develop such a high following, I think the ending of it's going to be, you would hope the ending is going to be something worth remembering.
Yeah.
It's not the best. It doesn't hold up the best rewatching, I will say. But like nothing beats being in the movie theater watching that for the first time, and like Captain America gets the hammer, and you're just like, hell yeah! I don't know, like nothing beats like that specific moment in the theaters for me. So rewatching though, I will say it's probably not the best rewatchable movie. All right, Nathan, your pick.
So let's see. I'll do 21st Century, and I'll do National Treasure.
Well, Treasure,
the first one.
It's a good pick. I didn't even have that on my list.
I didn't either. That is a good pick.
Yeah, because that 100% counts as a heist film.
Yeah, it's a good movie with Mr. Cage. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I think it's one of his better roles and within his career, and enjoy the trying to figure everything out, kind of the mystery with also the heist kind of combination. I think it's just a great movie all around.
Yeah, it's like such an interesting way to like use history as like a clue point to like find like obviously like a big thing at the end, like a big prize. Like and then stealing the Declaration of Independence, it's like heck yeah. And Nicolas Cage stealing the Declaration of Independence, like all right, I'll watch the movie.
Somebody sat in a boardroom and explained that to everybody, and they were like, hell yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, yeah, dude. Like, yeah, that sounds good, man. All right, Nathan, you got another pick.
I think I'm going to go wild card.
Ooh.
And I'm going to do Austin Powers and Goldmember.
Ooh, okay. I'm surprised you didn't want to take that in comedy.
I got other
you got
things
something
for
else.
comedy.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got something else coming.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the Austin Powers movie in forever.
Yeah, me neither.
I watched it a lot as a younger kid, and I just always found it as a good, wholesome, but also kind of the plot is easy to follow, and it's easy to follow the story arcs of what they're getting across and everything. The different characters Mike Myers portrays within all of those movies, I think he just does a great job at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mike Myers was on a crazy run there for a little bit.
He was.
That, Shrek, and then doing Saturday Night Live stuff. Wayne's World too, right?
Wayne's
That's
World.
him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's not doesn't do as much. Still Canadian, so I have different opinions about that. But all right, Justin.
All right, let's see here. I got a few different ways I can go. I think for it doesn't involve money, I'm gonna go Yeah, I'm gonna go Tenet by Christopher Nolan. I enjoy this movie, and I think the more I think about the plot and the more I've rewatched this film, I come to enjoy it more. A big knock for me at the beginning was it was just really hard to follow. It's a lot going on for sure. But I think the more I've watched it, the more I pick up on other things. And it's become more enjoyable for me. I know we didn't rank it too high on our Christopher Nolan ranking last week, but it is a Nolan film, so I think it deserves a place on here somewhere.
Yeah. 2 Nolans on the same team. I wonder what we did last week. Yeah, I'm not the biggest advocate for this film, if anybody watched last week, but at the same time, it's still a Nolan film, so it's really well done. If you love this movie, you love this movie. If you don't like this movie, you really don't like this movie. So it's really like a diverse movie take. Okay, so for me, for box office, I feel like this is like, surprise hasn't been picked yet. I don't think either of you saw it though. That's why I'm taking Ocean's 11.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're doing that for box office? Sorry, I thought you had Heat at box office.
No, I had that in 20th Century.
Sorry, my bad.
So Ocean's 11, one of like, when you think of heist films, even if you haven't seen it, you probably think of Ocean's 11 because it's like one of the biggest things, like biggest robbery movies. Cast is crazy. You got Brad Pitt, George Clooney, Matt Damon. I think Al Pacino's in one of them, right? Am I tripping for that?
I believe so. Yeah.
I don't think he's in this one though, but yeah, dude, crazy cast. That's just so well done with like, I couldn't imagine as a director showing up, and then being like that cast and having to control them and really tell a story, but he does really well. Nathan, have you seen this movie?
I think I've seen it, yeah. Because Ocean's 13 is the next movie too, right?
Yeah.
Movie after.
Ocean's 12 is the following one, and then Ocean's 13,
Gotcha.
and then the really, really bad Ocean's 8.
Ocean's 8, yeah.
That one sucks. Now, if anyone says that's good, they're just wrong. But also, really good director, Steven Soderbergh. He comes out with like a lot of interesting things. This was like his big breakout film, I would say. And then from there, he does like No Sudden Move. He does Magic Mike. I didn't know he did that. That's wild. I didn't know he did Magic Mike. And then he did Black Bag, which came out this past year. He's just all over with his movies. And then maybe a movie that I pick later that he also does. So for my other pick, so I got 21st Century. Okay. So with 21st Century, I think I'm going to pick a pretty big one that a lot of people really like, Baby Driver. That is one of my favorite heist films as well. Just is so well done. Really fun to watch too, because it's like different music, crazy cast as well. You got John Hamm, John Bernthal, Kevin Spacey, Ansel Elgort, I think is his name, the main actor. A couple of those guys got canceled for a little bit. I think Kevin Spacey is now cleared of all of like what he was accused of. But Ansel Elgort is not cleared. I'm pretty sure he's like blacklisted from the entire like Hollywood now. I don't think he's been in a movie for like 2 to 3 years. But anyways, the movie itself is really fun to watch. Yeah. Have you guys seen this?
I have not seen this yet.
I have, but it's been a while.
Yeah. It's just a fun movie where he just kind of doesn't want to be involved, but he owes something to the Kevin Spacey's character. So then he has to do, he's a driver. It's based around a heist, but like a bunch of different heists, but it's based around also that he's a crazy good driver. But yep.
So
right,
for my next pick, might seem cheap, but I'm going to go 20th Century and I'm going to do The Usual Suspects. I really like this movie. This is like probably the oldest heist movie I've seen. I haven't got into a lot of older ones. But yeah, we talked about it a bunch, so I'm not going to bore everybody.
All right, Nathan.
To me, I will do, I'll do comedy now. What I'll do is Tower Heist for comedy. I think with Ben Stiller, Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy is just one of the best comedians in my opinion. He is so funny. Ben Stiller is a really good actor. I think having them and the cast of people they have for it is just a good movie.
Yeah. No, I remember watching this movie when it first came out. Really funny. Ben Stiller is always funny on almost all and everything he does. Eddie Murphy, this was like towards the end of his career, like towards like the past of like what his prime would be called. He's still coming out with movies now. But The Pickup is a newer movie on Amazon Prime. Also kind of a heist movie. It's funny. It's with the other tatted guy from SNL, Pete Davidson. It's with him.
Yeah.
Pete Davidson's really bad in that, by the way. But Eddie Murphy's good in it.
And one more pick, Nathan.
I'm going to do doesn't involve money, and I'm going to do Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Oh, yeah.
Man, he's pulling out some crazy ones. Yeah, this definitely counts. But
Dude, that movie is so funny.
Oh, it could be put underneath for comedy as well, but I think I'd rather do it doesn't involve money.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget who directs it, but just the different things that they have going on throughout that movie. There's just so much unorthodox going on that just makes it hilarious.
It's crazy because I think I watched that movie for the first time like 2 years ago, and like to think like the comedy still holds up so well today. It's so hilarious.
Yeah, people still quote it like now.
Mm-hmm.
And
right,
so I guess it's back to me.
Yep, you got comedy and wild card left.
Yep, I'm gonna go comedy. I'm gonna do Going in Style. I don't know if you guys have seen that one, but it's about some old guys who are just kind of sick of sitting around in retirement. They're losing all their money, and they go and decide that they're gonna do a little bank heist. So I think it's pretty funny. Obviously Morgan Freeman, the star of it. It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, I think it's such a good movie in the way also where I think the title of the movie also goes with what the actors are too. It's like pretty much their last movies as well, because they're kind of done. It didn't get the best reviews, but I think it's a fun movie. I think it's a movie you walk into and you just don't take too serious. Okay, so my last two picks. Okay, so in comedy, man, yeah. I'm going to go with The Grinch Stole Christmas.
Which one?
The Jim Carrey one.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Obviously not like a typical one. I could have took this and doesn't involve money, but it definitely revolves around him stealing something. I think Jim Carrey kills it in this. The fact that like he had to sit through makeup like for 6 hours every day just to film scenes, and then all the real all his face styles is actually him doing it. It's not stuff that's made up. It's really funny. Okay, and then last one and wild card. There's a lot that I would want to take because I still got a good amount left. But I feel like I'm gonna have to take Hell or High Water, one of the movies that we watched this week.
Yep, that's a good pick.
I rated it so high for a reason. It's one of my favorites. I thought I could get it this late, and I'm glad I did. Yeah, we talked about it enough on this too. So,
I knew you guys both hadn't seen this, so I was saving it. I'm gonna go Fantastic Mr. Fox. I love this movie. It's definitely one of my top 5 all time, and I definitely recommend it for you guys. It's about a fox played by George Clooney, and he's kind of done with being poor. He doesn't want to live in a little foxhole. He wants to make good for his family, and he used to be a robber. He used to go rob stuff from the farmers nearby, and he kind of reminded me of the brother in Hell or High Water. Like he just wants the action, and he can't live without the action. But he's also trying to be a family man at the same time. So I definitely recommend it for you guys.
All right, Nathan, all you have left is the 20th century, so something in the 1900s.
So for the 20th century, I think what I'm going to do is True Story of Jesse James.
Okay.
Have you guys seen it?
No, tell us about
it.
Yeah. So I'll be honest, neither have I. It looks like a really good movie. That's got some good actors to it. I would love to watch it.
All right, we'll have to all check it out
back
then.
In the 1950s, based in the 1847, I believe, with American Western, Jesse James and his crew, and just trying to rob and make money. Looks like a really good movie.
At least you're honest. Awesome.
I think we drafted pretty well, guys.
Yeah. we'll each go over our teams. Nathan, you want to start first?
No, I'll defer to Justin.
Okay. So, I had Inception for box office over 300 million. I had Tenet for no money involved in the heist. I had The Usual Suspects for 20th Century. And then I had Avengers Endgame for 21st Century. I had Going in Style for comedy. And I had Fantastic Mr. Fox for a wild card.
And for box office, I had Ocean's 11. Doesn't involve money. I had Rogue One. 20th Century, I have Heat. 21st Century, I got Baby Driver. Comedy, The Grinch Stole Christmas. And then wild card, Hell or High Water.
So for box office, I did Ant-Man. For Doesn't Involve Money, I did Monty Python and the Holy Grail. For 20th Century, True Story of Jesse James. 21st Century's National Treasure. Comedy, Tower Heist. And then my wild card was Austin Powers and Goldmember.
So we're going to post this post it on Instagram. I think TikTok right now, because it looks like TikTok, we're getting a lot more viewership. So I'd be interested to get a little bit more votes than what we got on our Instagram one, which, by the way, I won that draft. It was only 10 votes, but still a win's a win.
Yep.
But yeah, awesome. So this week we went over heist films. Thank you, Nathan, for coming on as a guest. Hopefully you enjoyed the experience and watching 2 different movies that you've never seen before.
Yeah, thanks you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. It was a fun time.
Yeah. Did you struggle to watch the movies, or was it kind of just fun, something to do during the week when obviously not going to work?
No, it was easy coming home, and as soon as you get home, just taking care of a couple things and throwing on the movie and watching it through, and then taking some notes and trying to put 2 and 2 together.
And now homework assignment, watch The True Story of Jesse James.
Yep.
Exactly.
For all of us. So next week we are going to be going over Emma Stone. So that's next week's category. And yeah, thank you for watching.
Yeah. Thank you guys.